Hey guys, how's it going? So, yeah, I kind of got started late. I've been trying to do these around 4 o'clock, but I thought I would try to do it earlier, but I'm just not ready. I was trying to set this up here. What I've got here on my screen is what I was going to use as a teaser for the live stream, which I thought would be cool, but I guess I'll just go ahead and play it anyway. I spoke to you just the other day about 8 bodies discovered across New England, but tonight, the body count has risen to 12. It sounds impossible, right? Yet here we are, with more grisly discoveries happening almost back to back. Some of these victims had only just gone missing, while other remains have been decomposing for months or years. It's like every time we feel safe in our homes and in our communities, another set of remains is found along our highways and pulled out of our rivers. This surge in new and old discoveries has everyone talking. We all want to know, is there a serial killer hunting in this area? Could it be 2 serial killers who have found the same hunting grounds? Imagine one predator leaving a body too close to where the other killer dumped a victim, accidentally exposing themselves. The more you think about it, the worse it gets. 12 bodies is a lot for any area, especially in states known for small towns and tight-knit neighborhoods. Local police departments in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island are scrambling to see if any of these cases connect at all. Right now, it's not clear, but we can't ignore the fact that within a matter of weeks, all of these remains have appeared. The fear and rumors are running wild. Are we safe in our own homes? Are our children safe walking to school? If you ask me, caution is the only option. Travel in groups of 3s and 4s. Keep your eyes open, and if you see something strange, tell someone. And don't forget to check in with your loved ones. Because until we have answers, it's better to stay on guard than become another statistic. Tonight's live stream, we will look at everything that is known, the timelines, the patterns, and the uneasy possibility that none of us are safe or as secure as we'd like to think. We'll talk about the missing persons who have now been accounted for and whether investigators are getting closer to naming suspects, or if this is all still theory and speculation. Stay alert, lock your doors, and don't go anywhere alone if you can help it. So yeah, that was going to be my teaser. I've never made a teaser before. It was supposed to take like a few minutes, but apparently it took like an hour and 15 minutes. So, um, yeah. So have you guys been following the news at all? Have you heard about this New England killer? Yeah, it was just 8 just the other day, and now they've found a couple more. And they're definitely not saying it's a serial killer, but they're not saying it's not either. Yeah, I don't really watch the news either, but it pops up and I do check, Google Trends all the time too. So I guess I kind of check the news. I read it though. So yeah, I was planning to do all this stuff and get all these things for this, but I really didn't have enough time to do it all. Um, but I can just kind of talk through what's actually happening now. So tonight we're going to be diving into this chilling mystery behind these 12 bodies that have been discovered across Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island in the last 2 months. Um, these are tragedies. Are these tragedies connected? We don't know, but they are all in the same area along the same highway. Um, so, got to make this bigger so I can read it. Well, I guess I can't make it bigger. That's okay. So on March 6th uh, of this year, Norwalk, Connecticut, it's a commuter city along I-95. They witnessed the first ominous discovery. Police scouring the Norwalk River for a missing person actually found the body of 35-year-old Paige Fannin, a mother of three from Westlip, New York. Her body was pulled from the fast-moving waters near an abandoned bridge at the Norwalk-Wilton border. The family had reported Paige missing just 2 days before she was found. She vanished on March 4th during a visit to Connecticut. Officers noted that they had found personal items left on the riverbank as they deployed a drone in the search. By that afternoon, their worst fears materialized. Paige was found dead in a rain-swollen river, and there wasn't any signs of trauma. In fact, the Norwalk police later stated that they found no indication of foul play or relation to any other death or serial killer in her case. And there is an autopsy that is being done now. We don't have those results yet. But did Paige slip into the rushing river by accident? Or did somebody put her there? On that same day, on March 6th, about 150 miles up the coast in Plymouth, Massachusetts, another discovery occurred, one even more macabre. Hikers in woods off of Route 3 stumbled upon a human skull. Authorities haven't revealed much yet, not the age or the gender of the victim, just that the skull was likely weathered, and investigators are working to identify who it belonged to. Um, a human life has been reduced to a puzzle of bones. There, it was found in a patch of coastal woods, but is it connected to Paige's death in Connecticut? At first glance, the two scenes seemed unrelated. They're in different states. They're found dead under different circumstances. But March 6th would mark only the beginning. Over the next 3 weeks, one body after another turned up across southern New England as if some dark tide were rolling ashore. On March 19th, police in the seaside town of Groton, Connecticut, about an hour east of Norwalk, made another gruesome find near Colonel, what was it, Ledyard? Colonel Ledyard Cemetery. Inside an abandoned suitcase lay the dismembered remains of an unknown woman, estimated to be between the ages of 40 and 60. Investigators believe that the suitcase had been left by the cemetery in mid-February, meaning the killer, if it was a murderer, might have dumped it weeks before. The way the victim was hidden, packed in a luggage left by a graveyard, suggests a deliberate act. Someone was deliberately trying to conceal the crime. Such methods hint at an organized offender. Offender in FBI terms is someone who plans, transports, and hides remains methodically, showing control even after the death. The Groton police chief urged the rattled public, don't rush to judgment about any serial killer connection, but it was too late. Fear has been taking hold. 3 bodies in 13 days across 3 different towns. People on social media began whispering what no one dare say aloud. Was there a serial killer roaming through New England? So, what do you guys think? Is there another serial killer out there? Olga says, I wonder about the autopsy if they can detect any DNA. I think they will get DNA off the skull, but they haven't yet, or they haven't. There's a lot of information that most likely won't be told right away, but it gets scarier. The more this, story goes, 5 days after this had happened, on March 21st in New Haven, Connecticut, just 40 minutes up the interstate from where Paige Fannin was found, yet another body emerged. Residents clearing brush behind a home on Rock Creek Road made a devastating discovery. Olga, I'm not sure what that is. Rifkin still in. I'll have to look at that later. I don't know who you're referring to, but I can look it up in a couple seconds here. But the residents were clearing brush behind their home in Rock Creek on Rock Creek Road, and they made a discovery of a decomposed remains of a woman. Yeah, I'll look at them. You think, because I know there was the Boston Strangler before, that happened back in the 80s or something. Yeah, so I could look up Rivkin and see if he got out. I don't think I've heard of any serial killers getting out of prison. That seems like it would be big news. Let's see, where was I? Okay, so the decomposed remains that were found have been identified as Denise Leary, 59 years old, a local mother of 2 who had vanished the previous fall. So about a year before this discovery. Yeah, the Boston Strangler was a long time ago. I couldn't remember exactly when it was. But as far as I know, there have been a couple serial killers in this area, and the only one that comes to mind for sure is the Boston Strangler. I know there was others. So, sorry, I keep losing my place when I'm going through here. Trying to find that woman's name again. Yeah, Denise Leary. She was a mother of 2, and she had vanished the year before. Denise had literally been a missing person, last seen climbing out of her bedroom window on September 24th. And that seems weird. I don't know. Why would she be climbing out of her own window? For 6 months, her family pleaded for answers. Now, at last, Denise has been found, but in the most heartbreaking way possible. Her body hidden in the woods just behind her neighborhood. The medical examiner could not determine the exact cause of death, and there was no indication of trauma. And police have stressed nothing pointed to murder in this case. Denise had a history of mental health struggles, and she may have died on her own in the woods. Still, the timing of her discovery seemed uncanny. The police didn't know what to think. 3 women, Paige, the Groton Jane Doe, and Denise, all found in March within about 60 miles of each other. Even if Denise's death was natural, what were the odds of her body would surface amid a cluster of other bodies? In the social media age, coincidence feels like a flimsy answer. The pattern, let's see, if it was one, did not stop at state lines. The pattern is kind of flimsy too. I think it's, the same area is the pattern really along the same stretch of interstate. New Haven, Norwalk, Groton, three sites in Connecticut, each roughly an hour apart, three women, all around middle age. The parallels were eerie, yet evidence of a single killer has remained elusive. But the fear is real. People are talking about it. I've heard it on, I don't have any news clips to share, but it's all over the internet. There's actual news stations talking about this now and that there possibly might be a serial killer. The pattern, if it is a pattern, didn't stop at state lines because March 26th in the dense woods of Foster, Rhode Island, just over the Connecticut border, police made another heartbreaking find. The body of 56-year-old Michelle Romano was discovered off a desolate stretch of Plainfield Pike. Michelle had been missing from the city of Warwick, Rhode Island since August of 2024. The case had gone cold for 7 months. Now her remains lay hidden under the pine needles of a rural foster trail. Unlike Denise's case, however, authorities immediately deemed Michelle's death suspicious. The Rhode Island State Police launched a joint homicide investigation, even searching Michelle's former home for clues in the days after her body was found. To the public, Michelle's death felt like a confirmation of their worst fears. A murderer was prowling southern New England, preying on women and dumping their bodies in and out, out of the way places. But intriguingly, Michelle's own family pushed back on the serial killer narrative. In a Facebook post, the Romano family wrote, "We know that Michelle's passing is in no way related to any type of serial killer. We have complete faith in the Rhode Island State Police that the person responsible will be brought to justice." It was a bold statement implying they suspected a specific person, not a random stranger. Could Michelle's killer have been someone she knew, completely unrelated to whoever might be responsible for the other victims? If so, that would mean at least two different killers are at work. One, the plot thickens. Um, what do you believe? Is there more unnerving things? Is it more unnerving to imagine one predator behind all of these deaths or several predators operating independently? I don't know. I've been thinking um, that there could be the possibility that there's two serial killers murdering people in New England, and they kind of encroached on each other's territory. So one body washed up somewhere where another serial killer's body was found. It's kind of scary. By April, local media had picked up on the New England bodies mystery, and every week seemed to bring a new case. April 9th, in the quiet town of Killingly, Connecticut, state police discovered yet another set of human remains off in a wooded area. The remains have yet to be identified. Killingly lies in Connecticut's northeast corner, about 15 miles from where Michelle Romano was found in Foster, Rhode Island. Two neighboring rural towns, two bodies found in the woods just 2 weeks apart. Connecticut officials were quick to tamp down the panic. No information at this time suggests any connection to similar remains or discoveries. Hey, Crafted, how's it going? We're talking about the New England murders, and there's just so many bodies that have been found in a short amount of time. It's hard to believe that it's not related. It was practically a boilerplate now. The official refrain that there's no evidence of a serial killer, but people just aren't buying it. How could they when the numbers just keep climbing? 8 bodies by the end of April, according to the news reports. Some victims fully intact and identified, others so decomposed the the remains are, unidentified, and they stay anonymous. Some have been missing for months, and others found in within days of disappearing. The victims were mostly women, ranging from age, um, as I said, mid 30s to late 50s. I think there was actually one in her 60s. The only common thread so far, the actual only common thread is the location and the timing. Like if you really look at this case, you can look at all of these cases as individual cases. But what are the odds that all the bodies are found at the same time within the same area? It's just not possible. It just doesn't make sense. And that's why the internet is, going crazy with the possibility that there's a serial killer out there. And recently, the authorities have began to tactically acknowledge the possibility. Um, on April 16th, People magazine ran an article titled "Dead Women Are Turning Up in New England Beach Towns. Police Deny a Pattern, but Locals Fear a Serial Killer." The piece highlighted how TikTok and Facebook users were trading theories and warnings. "I live in Rhode Island. The places aren't far from each other," one commenter noted, voicing anxiety shared by many. Proximity was on everyone's mind. Look at a map. Norwalk to New Haven was only a 40-minute drive. Groton to Killingly, separated by back roads that you can traverse in about a half an hour. The cluster of sites in the coastal Connecticut and Rhode Island areas, Norwalk, New Haven, Groton, Foster, from loose form a loose arc near the I-95 corridor, while another cluster inland, Springfield, Rocky Hill, and perhaps even New Haven again, align on I-91. It is that meaningful, or is it just geography and bad luck? One tantalizing idea emerged. And this is something that I've been thinking about for the last few days. And I've noticed that other people have mentioned it. Um, the idea that two separate killers are operating in the same area. It kind of looks like they're like just kind of in the same area that they're close enough and they just happen to find one body over here. Now they got, uh, it's hard to imagine one killer. I think it's even harder to imagine multiple killers. A hypothetical I-95 killer, we'll say, you know, targeted women in shoreline communities, dumping some in water, Norwalk, uh, the Norwalk River, the Connecticut shoreline, or secluded coastal spots, the Groton Cemetery. Meanwhile, the I-91 killer could be striking further inland around Connecticut River Valley, New Haven borders, the I-91 route, and northward. Then you have Rocky Hill and Springfield, and it kind of fits the facts. Um, I think it's a little harder to believe that there's two, but it just seems a little bit odd. Yeah, the I-95 killer does sound good, and if I think I'm the first one to say it, so if it gets stuck, I thought of it. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to name killers, but it's hard to talk about these people that we don't know without giving them some sort of name to call them. But there's two different, like the I-95 and the I-91, they go perpendicular to each other. So one's going one direction, one's going the other. It could potentially still be the same person just traveling in two directions, or it could be two killers traveling in the same direction each time. So, as I said a couple days ago, the body count had reached 8. I mentioned it in another live stream, and I don't know that anybody had heard about these killings yet, these murders or deaths, I guess you should say, because some of them have not been determined to be murder yet. Um, but on April 22nd at dawn, near a bike path in Springfield, Massachusetts, um, at the Riverfront Park, police found an unresponsive woman on the ground. She was pronounced dead shortly after. Within days, authorities had identified her as 45-year-old Megan Meredith of Springfield. The Hampton County District Attorney, Anthony Giuliani, I don't think it's Giuliani. I don't know. Sometimes I get these names wrong. Confirmed that Megan's death was a homicide. Exactly how she was killed hasn't yet been released. Perhaps strangulation or trauma. If it wasn't immediately obvious to bystanders who had been there and discovered the body. Hey, thanks for coming in. I know you said you want to kind of step away from true crime for a little bit, but thanks anyway. But the fact that she was found alive, though unresponsive, and died at the scene suggests a recent attack. The killer was probably still in the surrounding area. If a serial predator was involved, he may have left her for dead only minutes before her discovery. Did someone see or hear anything that morning? It was a normal, peaceful bike trail in Connecticut by the river. We don't know. Okay, Crafted, have a good time talking about body language. So, where was I? Yeah, this was a bike trail near a river, the Connecticut River. But we don't know exactly what had happened. Um, What we do know is the official's stance. The DA has stressed that there's no reason to believe there's need for any heightened concern or new safety measures to be implemented in the region, despite this recent murder. Easy for him to say. The locals in Springfield felt otherwise. Megan's murder was the first clearly confirmed homicide along the string of deaths. Hey, thanks for reminding me. I always forget to tell you guys. Yeah, just click that button as much as you can. Um, I'm using StreamYard and I can't even click it myself, or I would. Um, if one was murder, couldn't the others be murder as well? The specter of a serial killer is looming. Just a few days later, on April 25th, this was a Friday, another body surfaced, this time back in southern Massachusetts. Walkers alongside the Mill River in Taunton, Massachusetts, noted something in the water and called 911. Police arrived around 3:40 that afternoon to find a corpse lodged in something in the water, in a shallow river, I guess it was, behind 43 Chandler Avenue. It was badly decomposed, indicating the person had been dead for some time. The Bristol County medical examiner identified the victim as 51-year-old Samuel Stovall, and a local homeless man known to frequent the area. Importantly, authorities said the death was not deemed suspicious, no foul play. Perhaps Sam drowned accidentally or succumbed to hypothermia by the riverbank during the winter. His autopsy is being performed, and the results have yet to be made known. Two more cases, however, would push the story into national headlines. On September 27th, this was Sunday, a boater on the Connecticut River in Rocky Hill, Connecticut, just south of Hartford, spotted a shape near the shoreline by Ferry Park and called the police. Responders pulled from the water the body of an unidentified individual. The corpse was intact but had no ID. The Rocky Hill police noted the cause of death was pending examination, and the circumstances remain under investigation. They didn't reveal the gender initially. All we know is this: Rocky Hill is a small suburban town that rests on the I-91 corridor. As officials pointed out, in fact, the local police press release subtly connected the dots. Another body was found along that corridor in Springfield last week. I-91 runs through New Haven, where a third body was previously found. There it is, even law enforcement publicly acknowledging the geographic pattern. Springfield, Megan, Rocky Hill, this unidentified person, New Haven, Denise, all roughly aligned north-south along Interstate 91. It was as if they were mapping out the killer's path. Could a single perpetrator be cruising the highways, dumping victims in rivers and wooded areas, depending on where he's going that day? And then, there was the clincher, the case that brought us to 12 on April 30th. This was just Wednesday. Before dawn, at a high school construction site in Taunton, Massachusetts, police made a shocking find. The body of 39-year-old Stephen Myers. He had been shot once and left behind the Bristol Plymouth Technical School. This time, there was no ambiguity. This was clear homicide, a gunshot victim. Myers, notably, was a man nearly 20 years younger than most of the female victims in these cases, his body being dumped behind a school, a relatively public location, also didn't fit the pattern of secluded woods or waterway. It was a bold, brazen crime scene. Taunton authorities said there was no connection between Myers and the school. In other words, he wasn't an employee. He didn't work there. Um, that only deepened the mystery: who killed him and why leave them there. Investigators in Taunton immediately suspected foul play because, of course, there was a gunshot. With Myers' death, the official body count hit 12. 12 lives ended and discovered since the beginning of this spring. The fear has been simmering, and it's bursting into a full boil. Yeah, this is kind of creepy. I mean, what are the odds of this many bodies being discovered at the same time in the same area, so close to each other? These are not just like random deaths, somebody just falls over while they're on a bike trail and drowns in the river that they rolled into or something. There's no explanation for how this type of stuff is even possible. It's really, really kind of scary. And I know I've already kind of talked about the killer theory, but I'd like to explore that a little more. Yeah, the women definitely sound like a connection. The men, it kind of makes the pattern a little different. But then if you think about serial killers like Israel Keys, who chose people specifically because of the way that their property was set up. It had to have an attached garage. He didn't want dogs in the area, or children. If they met his, whatever plan he has, if they met his criteria, he would abduct and kill them. This could be the same type of situation. We got somebody traveling, north and south, east and west on a regular basis over the last couple of years. Could be a commuter, could be, anything. And randomly killing people. And maybe he's gotten away with it, or she has gotten away with it long enough that they're getting bolder and bolder. And it's kind of insane. But, in history, there have been other serial killers that have operated in the same area at the same time. Let me see. Edwin Kemper, which I've done a story on. He was the co-ed killer. He picked up hitchhikers in, what was the town? I want to say Santa Cruz area, UC something. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But it was in California. And then there was Herbert Mullen. The coincidence was so unbelievable that police assumed the random murders around town had to be the work of one maniac. They were wrong. Kemper and Mullen were each committing their own murders simultaneously from 1970 until early 1973. Santa Cruz was terrorized by two serial killers and one mass murderer. The murders were random. Law enforcement didn't initially realize they had multiple serial killers. Eventually, both killers were caught, but not before the confusion allowed each other's spree to continue longer. Could New England in 2025 be experiencing a similar nightmare? Two killers, perhaps unaware of each other, operating in the same region. It's just, another example is along New York's Long Island. Over a dozen bodies were found along a remote beachway. I'm sure you guys have heard of this. It's been in the news lately, back between 2010 and 2011, in what was known as Gilgo Beach. The Gilgo Beach murders. Um, for years, rumors swirled of one prolific Long Island serial killer, but authorities now believe several murderers may have used the same dumping ground. If killers are planning these murders, they're going to be looking for the same things. A place that they can get to easily, a place that they won't be seen. Um, so it makes sense that if there were two operating in the same area, they might accidentally choose the same area. Could these killers possibly be stumbling on each other's leftovers? Or are they intentionally capitalizing on an area already under suspicion? Um, in this New England scenario, the geography is much larger. But the principle could be similar. One killer might prefer Connecticut, Rhode Island borderlands, Groton, Killingly, and Foster, while the other favors the Connecticut river towns, New Haven, Rocky Hill, and Springfield. These territories could overlap. Connecticut seems to be an and unfortunately in the crossroads for these cases. One or both might have branched into Massachusetts. They might not even know about each other, but it's just really disturbing. So if we just kind of go back to kind of recap everything, I'll kind of go in order here. So we've covered 12 victims from early March through April 30th. Today is May 3rd. Who knows what they'll find tomorrow. But first we had Paige Fannin, 35. She was missing since March 4th. She was found on March 6th. The unidentified skull found on March 6th in Plymouth, Massachusetts, in the woods, making it a much older case. In Groton, the suitcase Jane Doe, who was found next to the cemetery and dismembered and hidden inside of a suitcase, was March 19th. Denise Leary, 59, went missing on September 30th, 2024, found in March 21, on March 21st in New Haven behind a house. And Michelle Romano was 56, missing since August 18th, 2024, found March 26th in Foster, Rhode Island, buried in the woods. That one is definitely being treated as a homicide. The unidentified remains in Killingly, found on April 9th in the Connecticut woods, and the investigation is ongoing. There's Framingham, Massachusetts, the body found in early March on a bike path. Identity has not been made public, and there hasn't been a threat declared to the public yet. This case is technically on March 5th, but that's number 7. Megan Meredith was 45, found on April 22nd in Springfield, Massachusetts. Samuel Stovall was 51, found on April 25th in Taunton, Massachusetts. And an unidentified person in Rocky Hill, found on April 27th in Rocky Hill River, Connecticut, in the river. And that investigation is also ongoing. Stephen Myers, 39, was found on April 30th in Taunton, Massachusetts, behind a school. That's just insane. I mean, what are the odds? Yeah. I'm going to be really surprised if they find out that it's 2 killers, but it just seems, I don't know. The odds of this happening, it's just, I don't believe it's a coincidence that these bodies are all being found at the same time. The the bodies of the remains that were found that were unrecognizable. Those people have been missing for a year. It could be somebody on a road trip, for work. Last year he stopped here and he murdered some people, and then he's coming back this year, because it's almost the same time of year. Also, hi, civil defense prepping. I haven't watched Dexter in a long time, but yeah, I get it. It's hard to believe that there's a serial killer out there, um, but you can't deny that it's strange. There is a lot of bodies turning up in the last few days, the last few weeks, actually. But so no arrests have been made. Um, each investigation continues on its own track, but information is undoubtedly being compared behind the scenes. Perhaps DNA from the Groton suitcase will match a known offender's profile. Maybe a tip from one of you, somebody who watches this and says, you know what, I was walking down that bike path. I saw that woman, I think, and there was a man there, or there was a woman there with her. It could be anything. And it's just hard to believe that this is still happening. People like to go on road trips. It used to be a thing that when you're young, you go on a road trip. Once you're out of high school, you drive from coast to coast, you do those kinds of things, and you didn't really have to worry about stopping at rest stops, stopping at small campsites along the way. But I worry. I wouldn't stop in those places, especially the ones like the rest stops that are like 200 miles from the next rest stop. Those are the places I would definitely avoid. So, Civil, um, what have you been seeing on the news there in Connecticut? Uh, are they warning people to go out uh, in numbers rather than go out alone? If you got a relative going out for a jog by themselves, go with them, something like that, because it just seems like you can't go anywhere alone anymore. But I imagine the local news stations are, um, I saw Fox News. That was the first time I heard serial killer, and they actually talked about it, how it could possibly be related. Um, but some serial killers, they have profiles for a lot of them, right? But some of them they don't have an actual profile for. I think people don't look at Israel Keys that much because he was kept out of the media when he was arrested, by his own, like, I will tell you where the bodies are if you keep my name, back from the press. So he wasn't interviewed by anyone other than the FBI and things like that. And they just don't realize that his method of murder is like a level up compared to Ted Bundy back in the day. Ted Bundy was also a nomadic killer. He would travel from state to state and kill people, out of, you know, opportunity. But he would do things like walk right into a sorority house and rape and murder, multiple girls, and then walk out of the house and go to the next house down the street. Um, it's just insanity. And he had a type. Israel Keys made it his goal not to have a type, not to have trophies, not to do anything that all the old serial killers did before him. That's scary. You know, I don't know, what is allowed, but if you're unarmed, can you have like any kind of like bear spray or something like that on you just in case? I'm pretty sure that'll work on a human's eyes as well as a bear's. Ted Bundy is a terrifying guy. And there's a couple people I think are a little bit scarier, and one of those is Jeffrey Dahmer. But I am pretty sure Israel Keys is even scarier. But we don't have a whole lot of information about him or how he operated. We have little bits and pieces that you can gather through his FBI interviews. Yeah, bear spray. I imagine if you spray somebody in the face with bear spray, you probably go to jail. But if they're attacking you, maybe you have a good defense, self-defense kind of thing. But I know I think they banned like pepper spray and stuff like that. They have other kind of sprays that you can use. But it doesn't seem like it's safe, especially in these, if you live off of I-95 or I-91, make sure you know where your family is, your friends are, whenever they go out and do the normal things that they do. I get it. Nobody likes to live in fear, but I don't know I'd call it living in fear. Being prepared is different, So yeah, that's basically all I have. I didn't get any news footage or anything like that. Um, but if you Google the New England murders, you'll find lots of stuff. And I expect it's going to either they're going to find a couple different um, killers or they're not. And if they don't, this speculation is only going to get bigger and more people are going to start talking about it, especially if more bodies are found. Yeah, he could change his pattern, but from what I've read, it's like there's north and south, and east and west on the major interstates there, and they they take some back roads sometimes. They're off in the woods sometimes. They're off on the coast sometimes, but they're all within easy access of that interstate, of those two interstates. But yeah, so guys, that's kind of all I had for today. I don't know. I've been putting out little short videos. I don't know if you guys have watched them. I don't spend very much time on them. I just try to, record them and, post them. They're not like edited or anything, very well. The idea is to put them out and then, um, you know, just have a bunch of short videos. Let's see if I can find one that I did recently. Desert road in New Mexico. A half-naked woman with a dog collar frantically waved down a driver. This guy is really scary, by the way. He and his girlfriend would pick up people um, from I think bars or truck stop diners, and then they would torture them. But these short videos, I just wanted to say, I know they're not like great quality, but I'm just kind of trying to briefly speak about these people just so I don't know. I guess I could spend more time on the editing. But sometimes it's really hard to get the editing done when I'm trying to do all the research and the writing. And, I've been trying to make longer videos also. So the recording process takes a lot more time. The editing, the recording takes a lot more time. But I don't know if you guys tell me that these aren't that great and don't do them anymore, I'll stop. But I just do them to kind of fill in the gaps when I don't have any good content to put out or anything. So, on a desert road in New Mexico, a half-naked woman with a dog collar frantically waved down a driver. Thus unraveled the hidden horrors in David Parker Ray's trailer, a soundproof toy box of torture in the small town of Afont Butte. Ray had transformed a 22-foot cargo trailer into a personal dungeon, a demented chamber stocked with chains, pulleys, surgical tools, and macabre devices, hand-built to inflict maximum pain. Here he imprisoned women, rendering them helpless with drugs and shock devices. He subjected them to unspeakable torment for days on end. Taped instructions played from a recorder in the darkness, a cold voice telling each new victim exactly what would be done to her in excruciating details. I'm going to use you as a sex slave, and it's going to be painful as hell, the voice promised, a prelude to the agony to come. Ray bragged about abducting at least 40 women, making meticulous journal entries for each torment. In his so-called toy box, he was both king and monster, taking gleeful inventory of misery. It took the courage of one survivor, Cynthia Vigil, who escaped in 1999, to end his reign. Investigators later found evidence of many horrors in Ray's trailer. A custom-made gynecological chair wired for electrocution, and videotapes of victims screaming in pain. Though Ray was convicted of many kidnappings and rape, he died in prison before answers about dozens of missing women could be unearthed. The Toy Box Killer's legacy lingers like a noxious vapor in the desert air. This is yet another reminder that real-life terrors can exceed the worst nightmares. Hey, streets, how's it going? Yeah, you just missed it. We talked about the New England murders. That there's a lot of internet speculation that there's a serial killer hunting in the area. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I was just trying to say about the butcher baker guy from Anchorage, which is where I live now. Everyone that I've talked to that knew the guy when he had his baker shop says that he was like a nice guy who would give you free treats sometimes and stuff like that. I was trying to type that into the comments section here, and my comments all got rejected. He was supposedly a really nice guy, I said. YouTube rejected your comment. That usually means they think it's spam. Try changing it a bit. And then I typed in, he was supposed to be, YouTube rejected your comment. And then I typed, he was a nice guy. YouTube rejected your comment. But yeah. Yeah, I came across your YouTube channel the other day, YouTube Streets, and I just thought it was kind of, you were talking about Dylan Tallman. The way you were talking about it, I thought it was kind of funny. I just can't see myself speaking about it that way, but yeah, it was pretty interesting. I watched the whole thing. Well, guys, I think that's going to be all for today. I'm going to try to be live again tomorrow at some point, and at someday I'm going to figure out a good way to present this stuff where I have lots of stuff to talk about. I think the trick is managing my time. I have a real job, and then I've got to sleep too. So it takes a lot of time, and I put most of my effort into writing and recording, and then editing stuff. But if you notice, my videos are getting released in like 2 or 3 weeks, like my long form videos. rather than every week like before, but they're also longer. So, I'm trying to get better and make everyone happier with my content. So, um, anyways, guys, thanks for being here. I had a lot of fun. And as always, stay kind, be vigilant, and always question the truth. I'll catch you in the next video.